KILR Killer Game.
Hello, gamers, simmers, and pilots. I am the Killer Gamer, and welcome to my tour around the world with Microsoft Flight Simulator 4. You think after saying this enough times I would get it right. Well, we have a special flight that we're doing today. And as you can see, the night is upon us. We're almost there. It's dusk at the moment. But let's go ahead and talk about what we're doing. So we'll pull up our handy-duty SubLogic map. All this whole time I was calling it the Commodore 64 map. But it's where I got it from. But in all honesty, it's the SubLogic map because it's the same map that they use for the different platforms. But anyhow, we are here at Chicago Midway, and we're going to go here to Joliet Park District, which is actually called Joliet Regional now. But before we do, if you've seen the other videos and you already know, we are going to pay a little homage to Merle C. Meigs Field by doing a touch and go, and then we will head our way to Joliet. Now I know the big question that I've been batting back and forth with is it pronounced Meigs or is it pronounced Meigs? Because I've heard it two different ways. And this is coming from Flight Simulator's ATC. So on Flight Simulator 9, I think it was 9. Oh, that's right. I'm not using the AT. It's 2002. Sorry. Flight Simulator 2002, I'm using the default ATC that came with that. And Meigs Field was still there for that one. I can't remember if it was in FS9 or not. It definitely wasn't in FSX. But anyway, I heard two voices. One had pronounced it Meigs and the other pronounced it Meigs. And you can pronounce it both of those ways. And I even seen Meigs. So I'm like, oh my goodness, how in the world is this pronounced? Because I've called it Meigs my whole life growing up. And I'm not from Chicago, so I wouldn't really know. But I think we're going to put that question to rest in this episode. We're going to have ourselves a little in-flight movie, and we're going to learn how it's pronounced. All right. So we'll go ahead and set our radios here. So I think if we go ahead and set the Joliet radio, and if we set it for a vector of 240, that should bring us in this direction here. And if we set, do page here at, I'd say 1516, yeah. So if we do like a vector of 160, that should give us an intersection point right about here. That should give us a good indication that Joliet Park is right over here. Because it can get tricky trying to get the right airport in these old simulators. All right, let's go ahead and get everything set. So Joliet is going to be 1111112.30. 28 miles. Of course, it's going to take longer than that because we're making a side trip. And we were going to set that at a radio of 240. Okay, there it is. I'm sorry, due page is 108.4. There we are. And we'll set that for 160. Okay, and we are all set. So let's go ahead and we'll get the engine started here. Okay. For a moment, I thought the game crashed. We don't need that. All right, request to take off. You do that by hitting the enter key. You have to turn it on first. I'll show you how to do that. This is fun to play with, like maybe a couple of times, and then it gets kind of old. So to do that, you're going to go up to this nav com. You just go over here. You can click on it with your mouse or just type 7, and that will turn it on. Taxi to runway of your choice and hold short. Squawk 0202. Oh, that was close. And I don't know if this does anything or not. We're going to take the runway that's right in front of us. And I'm not even going to try to figure out which ones are taxiways and which ones aren't. Now there is an adventure factory, I think, for Flight Simulator 4 with the readings, with the reading and research that I've been doing, I believe. And with those, you could have an adventure all, you know, all created and set up that has air traffic. I don't know how complicated that would be to set up. If it's reasonable enough for us to do it, we could set up future flights and actually get, you know, some air traffic control somewhat. All right, one thing of flaps. We can go ahead and take off here. And that'll help add, you know, maybe a little bit more realism to it. I mean, I mean, we're not able to really take, you know, this simulator too far. I mean, it's limited in what it can do. All right, off we go into the wild blue yonder. All right, landing gear up, flaps up. And it really is a blue yonder for the moment. Eventually it'll go dark and it won't be blue anymore. Some of these clouds still seem like flying saucers, like from V. Is it V for victory, or is it V for the visitors? How many of you have watched V? It was a mini-series back in the 80s. 2 parts. Parts 1 and 2 was V, the beginning. And then 3, 4, and 5 made up V, the final battle. Jane Badler as Diana. You know how they complain how the whole gender politics and identity and stuff, and there's not enough strong women in show business. That's a little crap. I mean, take a look at some of this older stuff. Jane Badler as Diana? Holy crap, I wouldn't want to mess with her. She was a force to be reckoned with. There's just way too much politics and garbage going on these days. I mean, can't we just get along? You know what I mean? Okay, we got the Chicago skyline coming up. And it is dark. So as soon as we do our touch and go and get on our vector that we need to be on, we'll go ahead and we'll start our in-flight movie. And we'll answer the question once and for all. Is it Meigs? Is it Meigs? Or is it Meigs? I still have some programs I need to install and check out. These I got for Flight Simulator. Oh, where's my disk on that one? I think it's still sitting in the computer back here. I'd gotten these for Flight Simulator 2002. I've got the Ultimate Traffic, and then I also got My Traffic. I was looking for just My Traffic by itself, not 2004, because I don't want to use it with 2004. I'm using World of AI, but thankfully this My Traffic 2004 does work with 2002, so I was ecstatic about that. Of course, I misread. I wasn't paying attention, and I found a copy that I thought either I didn't think I ordered it, or I thought it was a different My Traffic, and I ordered it. So now I've got another copy coming. I didn't pay too much for it, so it's not too big of a deal. You know, maybe we'll have a giveaway. I've got 2 copies of ProFlight 98 also. And that's because, man, Flight Simulator 98, when it came out, that was my jam. I loved Flight Simulator 98. And now I'm doing stuff with it that I had not, I'm expanding it in ways that I never did or could back then. And I'm having a blast. I am honestly having a blast. The world tour is going to be great with Flight Simulator 98. It's going to be great with Flight Simulator 98. I assume that the runway should be, there it is. Okay, gear down, start getting some flaps down here. Well, that was a little more than what I was wanting to do. Whoa. Windows 98 was a fun time. It still seemed like a fun operating system. Like a playful operating system. Of course, I could just be blinded by nostalgia. XP was great for the longest time. Trying to get lined up here. And we don't want to land early either. Come on. And Windows 7 is definitely good. Okay, here we go. Okay, throttle up. And I think we're off. All right. Landing gear up. Retract the flaps. And VOR number 1 is already lined up. Let's go ahead and change our vector here. We're still moving. Why are we still moving? I'm looking at the compass and it keeps going up there. Come on. Just a little bit more further over to the left. That should do it. We'll turn our throttle down a little bit. We can still go up, but let's not go up so quickly. So speaking of Flight Simulator 98, I saw a video today of this guy who built a brand new Windows 98 machine. And I don't mean new like it was new to him. It was new as in all the parts were new. New motherboard, new processor, new graphics card. This is like old period specific stuff, but it was all brand new, never opened, sealed. Even the Windows 98 copy was sealed. And he was not able to get this stuff right away. It took him years to be able to gather this stuff. And he was putting together for, was it the 30th anniversary of Windows 98? So it's pretty cool. If we got some time, I'll pull up the video here and we'll watch some of it. Okay, so there's Midway right in front of us. We're all set here. Let's go and get our movie together. We're going to turn off the sound, so that way we don't have that noise going. So I'm going to have to turn up the volume here. Let's see. Okay. So I have
at Friends of Meg.
Okay, so I've got a video here ready. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'll keep an eye on our plane.
Please help support the Parks and Plains idea, founded by a group called Friends of Meigs Field. Parks and Plains is a combination of new lakefront parkland and an operating airport. This is the best compromise between aviation lovers and nature lovers who like to camp, take walks, scuba dive, or any other nature-related activity this brilliant idea would propose. Now, why are we doing this?
No,
what is Meigs Field?
Idea, bring the
Meigs Field
back.
was a small single-runway airport that opened in 1948 and operated to 2003. It was named after Merrill C. Meigs and was key to creating commerce in the Loop area of Chicago. It provided dozens and dozens of jobs and made $57 million in economic activity per year. All was well until 1994, when Chicago's mayor, Richard Daley, announced plans to close the airport and to put in a park. After some lease issues, the airport was closed briefly in 1996 and 1997, and eventually reopened in 1997. Additionally, in 2001, Mayor Daley signed an agreement that said Meigs Field would remain open through 2026, unless other plans were made before 2006. For the most part, things look bright and hopeful for years to come for the aviation community in Chicago.
Guys go out the next morning to go flying and the runway's plowed.
Look what he did.
Suddenly in the middle of the night on March 30th, 2003,
with no
Mayor Daley ordered a crew of bulldozers to dig 2-foot deep trenches into the runway so it could not be used. Pilots had to take their planes and evacuate the airport the next day. This was an illegal and unforgiving act by the mayor.
They had to use the taxiway.
The FAA fined the city over $1 million in fines, which was eventually paid. The mayor saw no regret in this and didn't have any plans to reopen the airport. Do you think Mayor Daley should get away with this? Neither do we at Friends of Meigs.
The airport's gone, it's done, it's over.
It just shouldn't have happened. And that airport was sacked.
All right, so there will be a link to this in the description if you'd like to watch it on your own. Let's see if there's another source of Meigs that we can use here. Just a couple of sources to make sure that the person that we're watching wasn't pronouncing it wrong. Orbix scenery. I've got that. I've got that for X-Plane and also for FSX. The X-Plane one is very nice. Huh. 727 landing at Meigs Field. Well, that's got to be interesting.
Now, live from the NBC Tower, this is the Channel 5 News at 5.
It's less than 30 years old, and it's already a museum relic. Today, a 727 jet made its final landing en route to retirement at the Museum of Science and Industry.
Almost sounds like
but it was a landing
Meigs
that had
is
never
a
been
museum
tried
relic.
before. Channel 5 aviation reporter Jim Tillman tells us how it was done.
First, you find the right pilot, one like Captain B.C. Thomas, test pilot.
I don't think anyone would try this
You
in
pick
real
a
life.
beautiful fall day. You invite the public, the press.
I know that there was.
Crash rescue teams.
I saw a
It's the
scenery
final
thing on
flight for this proud
flightsim.com
bird.
with someone who was
So why
like,
not take a
yeah,
look?
added another
Hello,
runway
guys.
to Meigs Field so you could land your 737 on it. But apparently this
And
guy...
finally, it's time to lower the flaps and the landing gear for
That's
the
a
last
big
time.
camera.
It's a super short runway, about half as long as O'Hare's shortest jet runways. So, Captain Thomas, what did you do to practice for this?
I didn't practice for it.
You didn't actually go out and fly this particular airplane for...
He didn't practice with Flight
We're
Simulator?
current in the 727, but as
Yeah.
far as making short field landings, no, we don't practice it.
The winds at Meigs can be very tricky. Today, they were only about 12 miles an hour, but gusty. Captain Thomas makes minor adjustments for the wind. He slows the airplane down to a crawl, about 115 miles an hour. He later says he was aiming to land about 50 feet from the approach edge of the runway.
Oh, man, look at that. Wow. Now, do you think he'd be able to do a touch and go? Would he be able to get that bird
Will visit the Museum of Science and Industry in the days
enough
to come. They will see
speed
this
and lift
as
to
just
take it
another
back
relic
up
of the
again?
time gone by. But those of us who have flown airplanes just like this one,
That's cool. Well, they didn't say Meg, so maybe there's another... maybe there's something else here. I don't know. Oh, here we go. How about this one? WW, well, I don't know who WW is, but maybe he's a wrestler.
The
or
race for
something.
mayor got a whole lot more interesting when one candidate said this.
First time, I'm going to propose to open up Meigs Field.
That's right. He said he's going to reopen Meigs Field, reversing
go.
one of Mayor Daley's biggest acts. Don't count him out. His campaign just picked up $1 million.
Okay, so that's even come from the news. They said Meigs Field. This was 2015. That was over 3 years ago. Well, Meigs Field isn't back, so so much for that. I guess he didn't get elected. I'm going to reopen Meigs Field. Well, darn. Maybe it'll come back. Yeah, they're bringing back the Titanic. Let me see if I can find that Windows 98 machine here. Yeah, here it is. It's the first one. Oh man, he did upgrades too. Now, yeah, we'll definitely won't watch all of this because it's quite long. I'm not going to put this in the description field because it has nothing to do with the flight. This is just some in-flight entertainment that we've got. But you can see what I used to search with Windows 98 News. So if you're interested in watching the whole thing.
Let's get out the hard drive, disk drive.
I was watching it earlier. And
On June 25th, 1998, Microsoft released Windows 98 to the world. June 25th, 2018 marks the 20-year anniversary of its release. As a way of celebrating this, I thought it would be fun to build an all-new Windows 98 gaming computer. Now, when I say I'm building a new computer, I don't just mean another one. I'm building an all-new computer from unused 20-year-old parts. It took me about 2 years and a lot of patience to get all these parts, but the case is what really made me want to do this in the first place. This is a new in-box Inwin Q500. Since 1999, it's been waiting to realize its potential as the over 2-foot-tall full-height tower that it is. This is my all-time favorite computer case, and I was very surprised when I was able to find one new in box. So I knew I had to do something special with it. Combined with the Windows 98 anniversary, it made for the perfect theme for a new build, an all-new Windows 98 PC. So I set out to find authentic parts for a period-correct Windows 98 PC. A CPU, motherboard, RAM, video card, keyboard, mouse, hard drive, sound card, disk drive, floppy drive, newer floppy drive, network card, USB card, front USB card, webcam, microphone, speakers, gamepad, joystick, floppy disk holders, and of course, a sealed copy of Windows 98. However, I did make one exception to the period-correct parts, a new EVGA power supply. I would rather use a new one that doesn't quite fit the theme than an old one that's probably gone bad in its box. But now the anniversary is here and it's time to put the computer together. So let's take a look at some of the most important parts, starting with the CPU. This is a 1 GHz Socket 370 Pentium.
Okay, so I don't think we need to watch any more of that, but I find that just so cool. Let's see what he says on this one.
Alright, I think it's time to get back to the new Windows 98 PC and install some more parts. Okay, here are the parts we're going to be installing this time. Another 120 gig hard drive, another
I think
DVD
I will put
drive,
this in the description field.
a SCSI card, the front panel USB I didn't get to last time, and what will be the newest part, a gigabit PCI adapter.
Credit.
Now let's start getting these open. This will be the second hard drive in this computer. I have a lot of games to put on this machine, and I prefer to leave them installed all the time. So having a second hard drive dedicated just for games is very convenient.
That.
And yes, I realize that 240 gigs of hard drive space isn't exactly period correct, but no one would have had 400 games to install on one computer at a time either. So I'm just balancing one period correct error with another. Next up is the Emprex dual layer DVD drive.
I can just see one game conflicting,
this is my favorite DVD drive. I have half a dozen of these, and they've all worked every time I've tried to use them. It's hard to beat that kind of track record for reliability. This professional front USB hub was originally going to be installed in the first build video. I actually just forgot to do it the first time around. Windows 98 was the first Windows release that really started to make USB viable, so it's going to be convenient to have access to ports on the front. Interestingly, this one comes with its own USB card, so you don't have to rely on headers on the motherboard. Now, this is a card I've been looking forward to putting into this computer for quite a while. I've really been wanting to get into some SCSI shenanigans.
I haven't even.
The card alone isn't all that exciting, but it opens some cool doors we can explore down the road. Yes, this gigabit network card really is meant to be used on Windows 98. Netgear must have a great driver development department if it made sense for them to port this all the way back to 98. Is this completely unnecessary for a 98 build? Yes. Is it awesome? Yes. Unlike most things, the directions for this card specifically state I should install the drivers before the card itself. Alright, let's start getting the new parts installed. Some of you will have undoubtedly noticed that that's not the same power supply I started with. The EVGA 450 watt power supply didn't have enough
I didn't explain
on the 5-volt rail to be able to handle this computer.
Hold on, let me pull out, or let me pull this back out again.
Let's get out the hard drive, disk drive, 5 1/4 floppy, 3 1/2 floppy,
what happens with
keyboard,
the case
and mouse.
When he opens it up. This is why this case is pretty cool.
Now to install the hard drive and the disk drive.
Oops, I think I went a little too far.
Which are both IDE drives
in
a computer. They're usually missing features that third-party boards commonly have. But I've always wanted to try one, so I'm going to be using this one in the new computer. Any features it's missing won't affect performance anyway, and this computer is going to blow away the system requirements for Windows 98. especially the video card, which is the beastly Voodoo 5 5500. The final flagship card for 3DFX, the Voodoo 5 5500 has 2 discrete GPUs and 64 megabytes of video memory. The 2 VSA 100 GPUs run an SLI on a single card. 3DFX is, of course, the company that created SLI. But before we try and put these parts together and make it post, we need 2 more things. First, the new monitor. A typical VGA CRT that will easily support the now uncommon resolutions that this computer will be outputting. And secondly, the motherboard tray from the InWin case.
Check this
It's
out.
a shame that this was never adopted as a standard. I suppose I'll also want the new power supply.
I think that is so cool.
Now that everything's out, let's begin the assembly
right
with
there
the
on the tray
motherboard.
and then slide it in.
And next, the CPU.
Yeah, I wanted
For
to
the
show
heatsink, I'm going to go ahead and not use the 19-year-old thermal pad that came attached to it, and instead opt for some better modern stuff.
Yeah, I would agree. So, I mean, you don't have to sit there and make it, completely authentic. It does make sense to have a little bit of add a little bit of modernism. As far as fans, it's like, oh, I got to get myself 20-year-old fans. No, get something that is going to be good. Well, I'm pretty sure the airport is off to the left of us. But this needle hasn't moved yet. We need to trust our instruments. There it goes. It's moving. Alright, let's go ahead and we'll put down our landing gear. Let's put down a thing of flaps. And that is got to be it right there. I don't think anyone else has ever done in-flight videos on their flight simulator videos. I think I'm the only one that's done that. On the old simulators, there's not really much to look at, just some lines and polygons and stuff. So, there's other things that we can do during the flight to make it a little entertaining, like we can sit here and talk with each other. Well, I'm doing the talking, you're listening, but you can talk back to me with the comment section. That's what it's there for. Oh, I am not sure where that runway is at. We might have to enter a pattern So that way we can go around and try to make a decent landing on it. I know it's got 2 runways, but one of them is a grass runway. And that may not be depicted on this one. It may just be 1 runway. On the SubLogic map, it only shows 1 runway. But sometimes those little icons, those little symbols, aren't always accurate. See, it looks like there's 2. There's this one, obviously, but it looks like there's another one right here, like coming straight towards us, but I can't tell for sure. I don't think it is. Let's move over this way. Let's slow down. We'll do some more flaps. I don't think we're going to be able to land on that. We are way too close. Alright, let's come over here. Let's go this way. Try to turn around here. No, I don't think those are it. There it is. Just 1 runway. Whoa. It's like a wake-up alarm. Wake up! We've landed! Flaps up. And I wonder if I can just click this here. There we go. Yeah, I can just use my mouse and just click on this instead of having to use the keypad, and although it is kind of quicker with the keypad. But okay, so here we are. We're at Joliet, Park District. Had some in-flight information there, and now we know for sure that it is Meigs Field. And just so you know, on all these videos that I'm doing of these on these different simulators, I'm not having the same exact conversation. I'm not talking about the same type of things. I'm not doing the same type of things. It may be the same flight, but what happens during the flight isn't always the same. And so it was here on Flight Simulator 4 that we found out for sure how Meigs Field is pronounced. It wasn't on any of the other ones. Although there was one that was kind of entertaining. I forget which one it was. I don't know. It might have been 98 or 2000 or 2002, but I had found something that was robotic and pronounced it. It was just, it was funny. But, you know, I invite you, check out the other simulators. I know it's a lot of videos, but you know, I try to have fun and you know, make it a little entertaining, and I hope you hang out with me. Honestly, I hope you'll hang out with me on these videos all the way through until we get all the way around the world. I think it's going to be epic. It's going to be an epic adventure. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, and hope to see you around on the next leg of this flight. Take care. Don't forget that we're doing this same flight in the other simulators, so check those out if you'd like to make some comparisons or just relive some of those old fun memories of the past. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future flight simulator content, and thanks very much for watching.